My name is Ikalone Udo. While growing up, I was a very, very timid and shy girl. I can remember growing up where I never used to have a friend. I was so lonely and I really craved for friendship, but I didn't know how to. Fast forward to my grown-up days, I had worked in the bank for like upward of 14 years. And the last year, that was 2015, I was very miserable. I had a good salary, I was married, I had children, but I felt very depressed. I wanted to commit suicide. I'm 41 years of age. While growing up, I was a very, very timid and shy girl. I grew up in a family of 5. We had 3 girls and 2 boys. I can remember growing up where I never used to have a friend. I was so lonely and I really craved for friendship, but I didn't know how to. I can remember one time my mom told me when I talk, nobody heard me because I used to be a very bad stammerer. And there was a time I was talking and we were just having a family chat. And my mom said, "Why are you talking as if you have hot yam in your mouth?" And from that day, I just stopped talking because I felt that I would say something so excitedly, but nobody got to understand what I was saying. So I just felt there was no need for me to express myself. Then in secondary school, I was just an ordinary student, very average, very there. And my mom told me, "Look at your grades, all C's, that the way you're going, you won't go far." And those words really got to me because I really was studying very hard. But I was never doing well in school. Until my final year in secondary school, I decided to pay attention to my studies. I didn't go for midterm. I was somewhere in Benin, Edo State in Nigeria, and I didn't have the opportunity to go for the midterm break. So I stayed behind to study. And while I was studying, I decided to give it my best. And I was surprised that that particular project I was doing, I got the highest. And the only thing I did was to put some extra effort and I made sure I wrote it out very neatly. And that was the turning point in my life. I couldn't believe something good could come out of me. Because when the results came out, the best in my class then, Chika is her name, asked to know who beat her for the very first time. And I was so timid and I showed her my results. And I realized that everything I took out time to do, she also did it, but I wrote much more. So that gave me an idea that the secret of those that actually succeed was because they did something extra, because that time I decided to do something really extra. That led me to have confidence to go to the university. While I was in the university, I was still a very quiet and timid girl. But I decided to make friends, to open up myself to receive people. And I went into my class elections. And many people came out and told me, "Why are you going for the election? You're so quiet. Who knows you?" I was very angry, but I now told the person that, "Who told you that it's only timid people or quiet people or noisy people that could go for competition?" And surprisingly, I went for the manifesto and I won. And all those times gave me the reawakening of my personal talents that I never knew I had within me. While I was the head of my department, whenever I spoke, people would tell me that you have a very lovely voice. They even tell me that you speak like a broadcaster. I couldn't believe that it was the same me who used to stutter a lot, that they were saying all this too. Fast forward to my grown-up days, I had worked in the bank for like upward of 14 years. And the last year, that was 2015, I was very miserable. I had a good salary, I was married, I had children, but I felt very depressed. I wanted to commit suicide. It was as if the cloth I was wearing, my body was not me. I wanted to burst out of myself. I didn't know what was wrong. And that year's December, I was so low in spirit that when I'm driving, I'll be hearing a voice tell me, why don't you drive off the road? Why don't you just kill yourself? I was so depressed. Until I heard on radio somebody talking about there's hope, there's an opportunity for you. And I went to seek for that person. I took the number down and I told this guy that I needed help. I don't know why I'm just miserable. And I went on an emotional intelligence session with the person to discover myself. That's where I realized that I had a voice, and that even though I could not speak confidently, but there are many platforms where that voice could be found. And you won't believe it, I resigned from my bank work and started this journey of discovering myself. And when I was discovering myself, I realized that my voice was my power. I needed to nurture this voice. And throughout that journey, I started speaking and encouraging people. And while I was encouraging people, I found that my fulfillment came from that aspect. But another thing happened again. I didn't have the money. But I realized that anytime I go to any occasion to speak, somebody will tell me how what I have spoken has encouraged them. And I took solace in that fact that, wow, that I have something to offer. And right now, I am speaking for a living, and I am also impacting lives. It wasn't rosy all the way, because while growing up, I came from a family that had parents who were separated, and I knew how that trauma affected me as a child, how my mom had to sell oil, had to sell sweets, how she had to borrow uniforms from our neighbor for us to wear, to go to school. So that made me to have the mindset that I will never be poor. So I made sure that everything I did, I gave it the best shot in my life. And I've realized that looking back in my life, all the things I passed through has actually taken me to where I am right now. I'm a motivational speaker. I speak on different platforms, on TV, on radio, to help people come out of depression. And I realized that most people are suffering from depression because they've not found out their core purpose here on earth. I've also suffered from depression many times, but whenever I focus on how I can impact more people, I get strength and the strength to move on and to encourage more people. There's a lot. Growing up, okay, it's the family, the different kinds of backgrounds we had. I had an elder sister who was not really in the family, and my parents did not really understand her. They used to beat her so badly, and she was this outgoing kind of person. It took my sister to pass. It took her to die. She died in 2016. Yes. For me and for every member of the family to understand the kind of person she was. And we just judged her differently. So right now, I see myself actually living her dream. Everything I am doing right now is because she wanted to live her life. But my parents kept on caging her down. So what I'm doing right now is deliberate that it's only one life. So I have to find out what I am here for and live it to the fullest. She was living her dreams. She was always outdoor. She wanted to go around the world, and she actually did. She traveled to so many countries, but we did not understand her. And it made us as a family to have so much rift, judgmental. Right now, we don't judge. Right now, I've come to realize that I don't judge anybody because they are different. They have different temperaments, and they are unique just the way they are. So all that is actually what is playing out in my own life too, because I have learned that I should live my life. All those me playing small is not helping me. I should come out of my shell, because by being myself, I'm encouraging other people, I'm inspiring other people to live their lives also. So that's basically what I can say about my background. My background was a background of too many issues. My dad was not there, married another woman. My mom was alone, and my mom and my sister could not see eye to eye throughout until when she was almost gone, when she was sick. That's when my mom forgave my sister, because she felt that why did she leave the house but she left the house to save herself from the battering of my dad. So there was a lot going on. So it was like this. Right now, as a mother, I am very particular about my kids' differences. I see some traits in my siblings, in my kids. So what I do right now is quickly to caution my first son to tolerate his siblings more. You see him saying, you see him so aggressive towards his younger brother. So I try to say, no, you learn to tolerate the outgoing younger brother because that is his temperament. You learn to accommodate him more, and you also have to work on yourself by being friendly because he's in boarding school right now. He's complaining that he doesn't have any friend, and I see what happened to me happened to him. I'm like, it's something we have to deal with. People will always be themselves. So if you're not opening up yourself to be friendly, you're not going to be. You achieve the great things you are supposed to achieve. So I'm telling him to open up more, to tolerate more. If people touch you, don't attack them. That is their temperament. Just try and be more accommodating. First of all, I want to talk to parents. Parents are actually the culprits because they do not understand that children are not the same, just the way our fingers are not the same. That's what happened in my home. I had my own issue with my mom. She told me that I was too timid, and I was shy. My sister, who was the outgoing type, when she was always going out too much, she was also being beaten. But that was her temperament. What parents should understand is to read more books like Tim Lahaye about who am I, find out their personalities, and know that this plays out in their different kids. They can't all be the same, and tolerate them for who they are and nurture them to bring out their strengths and work on their weaknesses, not condemn them and say that, why are you always going out? If you go out like this, or me, that I was an introverted child, why are you so timid? Inside that timidity, I found that I have a strength, which is my voice. So it was the ignorance of my parents that made me so withdrawn. But the good thing is that I didn't take it out against them. I looked for a way to find out how to solve my problem. But my elder sister, who was being abused, she couldn't understand why my mom condemned her so badly. So she hated my mom for that. So it also taught me that parents know that not all kids take advice the same way. The same way you correct a child is not the same way you correct another one. The child that will receive you as being wicked, but if you do that to another child, that child might like, oh, mommy is just trying to correct me. So after you rebuke a child, go back and explain to the child the reason why you did that. Not that you hate the child, but share more stories about maybe mistakes you made as a parent, and you don't want them to make the same mistake, because that's what happened. My mom did not have the opportunity to explain to my elder sister what she was trying to avoid her from getting into, the dangers of being too extroverted in a way. But in my own case, she spoke to me. I did not even know the impact of how it made me more withdrawn. It took me to find out from positive affirmations, people telling me outside that your voice is good. I couldn't believe when they said that to me in university. My voice, I that stammer so badly or used to stammer, but because they told me that my voice, I had something about my voice, I chose to work on it by joining Toastmasters, which is a public club where people get to learn how to control their stuttering and things like that. So basically, it has been a personal effort in improving myself to become better. The separation between my dad and my mom actually influenced all my siblings, especially my elder. She was the first and the second. It was like it broke the family into two. While my elder sister was growing up, I knew my dad was really, my parents were together then, and my sister was the outgoing type, never at home kind of child. But when we became grown-ups, when the issue of the second wife came in, my father abandoned us, went with the other woman, my mother was left to train us to school. My elder sister, who was not really around to witness the battering of my mom by my dad was supporting my dad, and everything my dad told her, she just felt that my dad just needed to have the best kind of life. So she told me, the other ones, that we should build a house for my dad, which I contributed. But I, who was always around with my mom, knew that there was no way I wanted my mom to follow my dad to that house, because we needed to live where we were living at that time. The landlord said we should leave, so we needed to move out. And that brought a break in my home, because I had to pay for a 1-bedroom apartment for my mom and encourage my mom to stay on her own. And people, our relations, I heard that did not understand why my mom did not follow my dad. They were not there when the issues happened, but I was the one that knew. So I supported my mom a great deal, protected her from every voice that came from outside. And there was so much attack against my mom that she left her matrimonial home, not knowing that my father was the one that abandoned us, even without the rents being paid. Even the landlord's son came and said we should give us quick notice. So that made my sister and I to be at loggerheads concerning our parents. And that also made my younger ones to not even know what was happening. So my sister was supporting my dad while I was supporting my mom. And it made me, as growing up, to ensure that whoever I was going to marry, I would not allow any man treat me the way my father treated my mom. So I made sure I was a very independent woman. When I was working, I was always looking for the best kind of jobs, because I wanted to take care of myself and my mom, myself and my family. I was thinking like a 360 woman, that I wanted to be independent without any man's effort. So even as I was my first job, I made sure I built a house, because that was the challenge that made my mom to go and stay in a 1-bedroom apartment where she had to share conveniences and kitchen with many people. So I, as a single lady, before I got married, was building a house. I got the land, built a house. It made me to be a driver. I was just focused like that. And I did all that before a man came into my life. And when my husband wanted to marry me, I didn't even know what to think, because I was just running. And I knew my mom said to us in university, you won't marry until you have gotten your first husband, which is your certificate. So that was what was always ringing in my head. Even when guys came to university, I was not even thinking of that. I was like, no, certificate first before going into that. So that made me to be a very strong, independent woman. Even till date, I still see that happening a lot. I'm a very decisive kind of person when it comes to making decisions. I see the future. I always plan ahead, because the suffering I had as a child made me to strive ahead and plan ahead to ensure no man treats me that way, because I saw lots of suffering through my mom selling all those things, and I didn't want that to happen. I would like to encourage every woman to discover herself. Before you even get into any relationship with any man, make sure you know your plan for your life, know where you want to be. Once you have gotten that right, it will attract the right kind of associations, friendship you want in your life. Because anybody that is not going your way will come as distractions. But if you are focused, you get the right kind of people to make you, and relationships that will take you to where you want to go. So please discover yourself first.